Now we discuss about the human eye. So in previous class we discussed about the structures of eye and what are the defects caused by the eye. Such things we had to discuss today, including that prism also we had to discuss. Now under prism, one of the application will be there. What is that? Refractive index of the prism. Refractive index of the prism is given by, so I told you the application, sin of a plus dm by 2 by sin a by 2. Sin of a plus dm by 2 by sin a by 2 is the application. Yes, that we have to derive. So we can derive the derivation. So this is an important one. So important application. What is that? Derive the formula. Derive the formula. N is equal to or mu is equal to whatever that sin of a plus dm by 2 whole divided by sin a by 2. Or otherwise, this question will also ask, how do you determine the refractive index of the prism mathematically? So mathematical application by applying the mathematical solutions, how to derive this one. So experimental verification in previous class we discussed. Now we discuss about the mathematical application, how to determine this mathematically. So first of all we consider prism. So to be considered the prism, this diagram is important. So when you draw mathematical application also I had used here. So this prism we called as P, Q, or is said to be the prism. Okay. When incident ray will be produces here, travels here, and here to plot one normal line. From there it will be touches and refracts and travels like this. So from there also to plot one normal line. So again what happens? It will be emerges out. This point to consider as Mn. This point to consider as Mn, and this emergent ray to be considered. Emergent ray to be considered here. Okay now. So this emergent ray to be considered. So incident ray, refracted ray, emergent ray will be considered. Here this angle will be taken as I1 and this angle is taken as R1 and this angle is taken as R2 and this angle is taken as I2. So like that angles also to be considered, and from there to extend this rays. So incident ray is extended like this. Similarly, this ray also, emergent ray also extended like this. Both will be meet at one point. Where this curve meet, that point we consider as O. That we consider as O, and the angle to be considered as angle of minimum deviation. That will be taken as angle of minimum deviation. That we consider as dm. So this angle of deviation we consider as dm. We consider dm, minimum deviation vertical. Understand? So this about this diagram. By that we can verify mathematical applications. So how to use it here. So here two triangles to be considered. First to consider OMN, one triangle, PMN, another triangle, OMN, one triangle, PMN, another triangle. First of all we consider triangle OMN. From triangle OMN. So just start to draw this OM triangle also. So we get like this. This one is OMN triangle are considered. Here these angles are considered as I1 minus R1 inside that. This one taken as I2 minus R2 to be considered that. And this one is the deviation angle. This one is considered as the angle of deviation. This one D will be considered. So from this triangle we can calculate the angle of D. So sum of these remaining two angles becomes that third angle. So sum of the three angles equal to 180 degrees. Among that two angles are given and third angle we have to calculate from this figure. So that is angle D is equal to I1 minus R1 plus I2 minus R2. That had to consider. Now by adding this, what do you get? I1 minus R1 plus I2 minus R2. Now this equal to I1 plus I2. So take minus common, then you get R1 plus R2. So this value of D, let it be equation number 1. To consider this as equation number 1. Now, to consider another triangle PMN. From triangle PMN. So this one. So small triangles to be drawn. PMN. Now in this angle of the prism P will be, so that will be A. That consider as A. And this will become an exterior angles. Sum of the three angles in a triangle is equal to 180 degrees. Yes, here to consider I will be 90 minus R1. In this case 90 minus R2. So total angles A, all these three angles, that is A plus 90 minus R1 plus 90 minus R2 equal to 180 degrees. So that you have to consider. So A plus 90 minus R1 plus 90 minus R2 is equal to 180 degrees. Now to calculate A value, so send all these values that side. So A is equal to, and A is equal to 180. This goes that side. Minus 90 plus R1 minus 90 plus R2. So minus 90 minus 180 plus 180 gets cancelled. Now angle A becomes, A is equal to R1 plus R2. Let it be equation number 2. So get the value of A is equal to R1 plus R2. Now next we have to consider these two equations to be added. Add 1 and 2 equations. Add 1 and 2 equations. What is one? D is given. In second equation A will be there. That means A plus D. A plus D is equal to, what do you get? I1 plus R1 minus R1 plus R2. Here plus A value will be R1 plus R2. Now what do you get? I1 plus I2. I1 plus I2. I1 plus I2. Now I1 plus I2 minus R1 minus R2 plus R1 plus R2 minus R1 plus R1 minus R2 plus R2 gets cancelled. Now A plus D is equal to I1 plus I2. Let it be equation number 3. A plus D is equal to I1 plus I2 to consider as equation number 3. Now according to Snell's law, what is Snell's law? N1 sin I is equal to N2 sin naught. N1 sin I is equal to N2 sin naught. That is equation number 4. According to Snell's law, I have to consider that. In this case, N1 is equal to 1. N1, A to consider, its value will be 1. And N2, glass, that consider as N. And I is considered as I1. I is equal to I1 and R is equal to R1. All of these values substitute in 4. So all these values to be substitute in equation number 4. Then what do you get? N1. So N1 means 1. 1 into sin I1. 1 into sin I1 is equal to N2. N2 means N. N into sin R2. Then what do you get? N sin I1 is equal to N sin R2. That is equation number 5. That to taken as equation number 5. Then next, In this case, to consider here, angle of elevation is equal to the angle of minimum deviation. That means D is considered as dm. D is taken as to be dm, and A plus dm is equal to, so substitute in equation number, substitute this in equation A plus D, that is equation 3. In equation 3, then what you get? A plus dm. A plus dm is equal to I1 plus I2. So both angles will be similar. One value to be considered. That means I2 is also taken as I1. That means I1 plus I1 will get 2I1. Otherwise, so just I1 plus I2 will be there. No use for that calculation. That's why one of the angle will be taken similar. So that's why I2 will be I1. What you get? A plus dm is equal to I1 plus I1. Now what do you get? A plus dm is equal to 2I1. Then we calculate the value of I1 is equal to A plus dm by 2. A plus dm by 2. That will be equation number 6. To consider I1 value, because in Snell's law I1 will be given, so that to change you can consider this statement. So I1 is equal to A plus dm by 2. Similarly, to consider R value also. So R, so what is that in the equation 2? R1 plus R2 is equal to, so A is equal to R1 plus R2. In that also to consider, then R2 equal to R1, substitute in equation 2. What do you get? A is equal to R1 plus R1. So A is equal to 2R1. Then R1 is equal to A by 2. Let it be equation number 7. So in Snell's law, I1 and R1 values I have to calculate here. R1, 1 side, 2, not 2. So I1, R1 values to be, so I have to get in this equation 6 and 7. These values are substituted in Snell's law. We get our application n is equal to sine of A plus dm by 2 by sine A by 2. So substitute 6 and 7 equations in equation 5. In equation 5 I have to substitute all these values. Then what do you get? Sine I1. So what is the value of I1? A plus dm by 2. So sine of A plus dm by 2 is equal to n into R1. What is R1 value? A by 2. That is sine R1. So n into sine A by 2. Now we have to calculate this n value to make n as a subject. N is equal to multiplication, it comes this side, becomes division. So n is equal to sine of A plus dm by 2 whole divided by sine A by 2. So that's our application. Okay. So the refractive index of the prism is given sine of A plus dm by 2 by sine A by 2. So for calculating that, first you have to draw the figure. So what is that? Prism. Prism will be considered. So on that incident ray falls on the prism. It will be refracted. From there again it comes back. That is, it emerges out. Emergent ray to be considered. And to extend this incident ray and that emergent ray, both will meet at one point. That point we consider as O. And this refracted ray we consider as Mn. Okay. Now triangle will be considered as PQR triangle. In that Mn becomes as a refracted ray. That will be considered as Mn. So here we get three triangles. One is OMN, another one is said to be the PMN. From that we can consider these A and D values. Then after that, the A and D values to be considered in Snell's law equation. That is sine. What is Snell's law? N1 sine I is equal to N2 sine R. In that equation we have to consider these values. that is I1 and R1 values, we get the refractive index of the prism as n is equal to sin of a plus dm by 2 by sin a by 2. Okay, this is about this derivation.